Spring controllers are just standard Java objects. There's nothing special about them. So let me give you an example. Let's write a simple Spring controller and show how we would connect it to the dispatcher servlet so that that dispatcher servlet could route requests to that controller into the appropriate methods within the controller. So in order to create a Spring controller, all we need to do is create a simple class. So in this case, let's create a class called contacts control. And what you'll notice is that, well, first off, you'll notice that we have to add class here since we want this to be a Java class. But it's just a basic Java class. There's no special interfaces or class that we're inheriting from. Now, let's say that we want to have a method that is going to handle requests from clients in order to view a list of contacts. We could simply say public contacts get contacts. And this is just like any other Java method. We just need to do something to retrieve the contacts. And then let's say the contacts are stored in some variable C. And then we're going to return the contacts. So we'll return C. So this is just a basic Java class. We've got a basic Java method where we're going and doing some work. And what's really nice is this class is clean. It's standard Java. It's not polluted by any frameworks. But we need a way to connect it to the dispatcher servlet so that the dispatcher servlet knows about it, knows which requests to route to it, and knows which methods to route those requests to. The way that we do this in Spring is we add an @request mapping annotation. And what this tells the Spring framework is that this is going to be a method that we want to route requests to. And we'll talk about what goes into this in a second. The other thing we have to do is at the top of this class, we have to add an @controller annotation so that Spring knows that this class, that we want it to serve as a controller. Now what we do in this request mapping is we then specify a path for when we want this thing invoked. For example, we could say /contacts, that we want you to route any request to /contacts into this particular method. And then what the dispatcher servlet will do is whenever it sees a request to the /contacts path, it will automatically route that request into this particular method. So if we then went and let's say we extended our class and we have another method, we have public, let's say contacts, and then we just call this friends, for example. Maybe we want a list of contacts that we consider to be just our friends. The way that we would tell the dispatcher servlet about this thing is, again, we would just add another request mapping annotation, and we would map it to a separate path from the first one. So maybe this one goes to /friends. So these annotations, the request mapping annotations, tell the dispatcher servlet when you route a request to the contacts control object, which we're saying is a controller with this @controller annotation, if the request is for /contacts, it should go in this method. If the request is for /friends, it should be routed to this method. And these methods on this object will then handle the logic for processing those requests and determining what happens with them.